Hey, thanks for watching The Joy of Fixing. Today, I'm going to replace something that's been driving me crazy. This cracked out armrest on the top of the console in the center of my GMC Yukon XL. This will be the same for a GMC Yukon, a Chevy Tahoe, or a Chevy Suburban. And also, it doesn't have to be a 2011 like mine. It runs the spread of many years, and even before or after this, it's a pretty similar process. So, let's go. Well, these things get torn up pretty easy. I mean, when you get into cars, sometimes you reach over and put your elbow on that and pull yourself in, and that is what has cracked and destroyed this as it's become old and brittle over the last 13 years of its life. So we're going to go ahead and replace this. And we're going to just pop it open and get started. Now you can order these replacement covers off of eBay. There's companies that have them there for under $20, and I'll put a link to this one. But if you find it, use those keywords and you'll find one in your color or in your year. We're popping those 8 screws off the bottom there to get access to the inside of this bottom cover. Now the other screws we need to get to are underneath this top little rubber tray. Just use a credit card or a pocket knife on the side to pry that rubber up, and you're gonna find those screws. Everything is a Phillips screw. That's all you need. A Phillips number 2 head should be just fine, and you can do all of this with a hand screwdriver. No need for a drill if you don't have one. Now that part on the top won't come out like you saw, but the screws are loose. What we need to do is remove this bottom panel. Push the button in and then pull the tray down. You may have to pry this out at the edge with the screwdriver as well. There we'll find our hinge screws. There's just 4 of them, Phillips screws again. Just 4 of these and this little cover's off. No problem, piece of cake. And it's a lot more workable once it's off. Really, the first thing you want to do is get access to this and get it off so you can work on it on a workbench or at least in the passenger seat. Now this still won't come out, and it's because there's 2 more screws holding it in place there. Again, Phillips screws, same screws as the hinges. There's only 2 types of screws used putting this together and taking it apart. Apply your thumbs to the front and give it a little push, and that unit should slide right out of the top, giving you full access to this leather cover. We'll set that aside. Now this leather cover is literally just stapled in. We're going to do the same once we replace it, but I highly advise you get the shortest staples you can for your staple gun. If it's too long, it'll penetrate the plastic and come out the other side of the leather, and you'll be getting poked by staples coming through holes in your brand new cover. Once again, use the shortest possible. You could also use carpet tape or a 2-way tape on this, but once it's stuck, it's stuck. So I like the combination of the staples and a 2-way tape, if you can. Anyway, that covers off, and we're going to just pull out the last of any remnants of staples with pliers or your fingers if you're real manly. And there's the foam pad. I was glad to see that this wasn't part of the cover, because when the cover showed up, it felt awful thin. We're going to pull that out, and of course, we'll use that again. But here we are, all the staples removed. And let's take this over to the workbench. There's a video of me building this workbench, although you can't tell what it is now, but it's a nice little outdoor workbench. Now that 2-sided tape, like I said, it might be useful. I'm not going to use it for this, but I could see how you would want to use it, especially for just stabilizing things before you stapled it. But I like the method of stapling, pulling tight, and stapling again. That way I'm making sure it's as tight as I can get it. So of course, let's go ahead and dry fit this thing and get it slid on there pretty close. It's not going to be quite right. As you can see, those front corners don't line up. But lining up those front edges is going to be the very first order of business. So like you can see, let's try to get the stitch to line up right across the edge of that corner. Once you start getting it lined up, you're going to want to pull at the back here. That's going to remove all of the slack between the front and the back. Now, at some point you got to put a staple in, and this is that point. Once those front edges are lined up as good as you can get them, even though it's still sliding around and all lopsided and weird, you're going to want to get your staple gun. And we're going to try to put some staples in those front edges, just to start getting things held tight. Of course, make sure you have a good fit first, like I'm doing here. Move it around, feel it, make sure your edge is right. Finally, pin down something right around here and put a staple into it. That's going to give you an ability to start pulling the cover tight. But let's do the other side as well. Make sure those edges line up nice and clean.
You can't even squeeze it.
Put one staple in there, somewhat near the front edge of the inside of the top tray void.
Is that because they don't want kids using grown-up tools? Yeah.
These front edges really are the key to getting the whole thing nice and straight and tight. Go ahead and pull that under and tuck it tight and throw a staple in it, or adhere it to the tape. But I'd suggest a nice little staple. Now pull that leather back, hold onto the plastic and keep pulling it back, because that's all that's going to tighten this up. And this is the next step. Tuck that corner in and go ahead and throw a staple in there, and then give it another little fold and pull. Tuck that in and throw one more staple in it. Kind of like that. Now we're going to do the same with the other side. You see how loose that is? We're just going to pull that all back and then around the edge and throw some staples in the corner of that. Now we're pretty much tight across the top. All four corners are pulled, and that's super cool. So now let's go ahead and throw some extra staples in here around the rest of the tray so we can stretch out the sides. Go ahead and leave this little back flap for now. Don't do that one yet. We're worried about the sides. Go ahead and give it a nice little pull now that those staples are holding it on the other side. Tuck it in and pop a couple staples in it. Or use the tape if you wanna. We're gonna do that on both sides. Pull it in, give it some staples. And we're gonna start moving around the back side as well. That front little area, don't worry too much about that. That's going to tuck into the handle assembly. It's barely even noticeable when it's done. You can use some two-way tape here. In fact, this is the one place I do suggest the two-way tape. Now staple that back flap. And we're finally going to pull the middle of that back portion in and get some staples in there. I highly encourage you to do these things in the order I'm telling you to do them, because it's how you're going to get the tightest, most accurate fit. And as you can see, it looks pretty good. A couple little wrinkles in there, but those are just creases from it being folded and shipped to me. And putting it in the car and letting the heat get to it over a few days will even it right out. Put it back in the car, 4 screws back in the hinge, don't over tighten and break out the plastic. Then of course, put this inside bottom tray in with your 8 small screws that you removed at first. At this point, you've already installed that top tray assembly with the 2 screws, just the way we pulled it out. And finally, the 4 screws into the top of this as well. Slide your little grip pad back in there if you still got it, and that's done. Looking good and clean, all those cracks gone that were cutting up my elbow. Awesome. Done and done. Well, thanks for watching. I hope that was helpful. It's replaced. It looks good. Like I said, be careful with those staples on the front and the back, but otherwise, we're good to go. Not too bad. You can do this with just a Phillips screwdriver and a stapler, honestly. You could even probably just do it with a Phillips screwdriver and 2-sided tape, but the staples help keep it in place. Either way, if you like content like this, please like the video. It helps so much when you like a video. Please subscribe, because we got a bunch of little stuff like this coming up and some bigger projects again as well. And of course, get in the comments section. Any questions, any comments, anything else, or just say, great video. You can do whatever you want. It's a free country. Well, at least where I'm at. God bless. Have a good day. Thanks for watching. We'll see you on the next one. Bye-bye.